The mysterious arrival. The night was quiet in the human colony on the edge of space. Most people were asleep, their small houses dark, their machines resting. The stars outside shone cold and endless. Only the guards at the outpost kept their eyes on the sky. And then, without warning, a light broke the darkness. At first, they thought it was a comet, a streak of fire across the black sky, glowing brighter and brighter. But the object was too fast, too direct, too controlled. It cut through the sky and roared as it fell. The ground shook, windows rattled, and alarms echoed across the colony. Something had fallen from the stars, and it was close. People ran outside, their faces pale. Children clung to their mothers. Soldiers grabbed their rifles. The colony leader shouted orders. Teams rushed to the crash site. Eli, the young mechanic, watched from his roof, his heart racing. He had never seen anything fall from the heavens like this. Something deep inside him whispered that life was about to change. When the dust cleared, the people found it. A small alien pod, half buried in the dirt, glowing faintly. Its metal was strange, alive with patterns of light that moved like rivers. The pod hissed, cracked open, and silence fell. No one breathed, no one spoke. And then they saw her. A girl, not human, lying weak inside. Her skin pale blue, her eyes closed, her body thin and fragile. Her hair shimmered silver under the moonlight. The guards lifted their weapons, ready to shoot, but the leader raised his hand. "Wait," he said, his voice trembling. They looked at her like she was a curse, like a danger wrapped in skin. The alien girl opened her eyes slowly, large and glowing like twin stars. She did not cry. She did not scream. She only looked at the humans around her, as if asking a question no one could hear. The people stepped back, afraid. Some whispered, "She's dangerous." Others hissed, "She's not one of us." A child shouted, "Monster!" and the words spread like fire. The colony decided quickly. She would not be trusted. She would not be welcomed. They gave her no name, no family. They placed her in a small shelter outside the colony walls. She was not a guest. She was a prisoner. The alien girl sat alone under the cold stars, her eyes shining with silent sorrow. But Eli could not forget her. He had seen something in her eyes. Not danger, not anger, but loneliness. The same loneliness he often felt himself, working in the shadows, fixing machines no one cared about. He wondered if she was scared. He wondered if she even understood their words. That night, while others locked their doors in fear, Eli could not sleep. He kept hearing the sound of the pod breaking the sky. He kept seeing the girl's glowing eyes. And he kept asking himself why fate had sent her here. Days passed, and the alien girl remained alone. The guards brought her water and plain food, but never spoke. She never spoke either. Only at night, when the colony slept, she moved her hands across the dirt floor, drawing strange, glowing symbols with her fingers. Symbols that seemed alive, shifting softly with light. The guards saw it and grew more afraid. "She is calling her people," they whispered. "She will bring an army," they warned. Fear spread and hatred grew. The council met, arguing long into the night. "Send her away," one said. "She is a danger," another added. "No one will want her here," a woman shouted. But the leader was silent, staring at the map, staring at the stars. Finally, he said, "We will wait, we will watch, but she will never be one of us." The people agreed, but their fear did not fade. Only Eli kept thinking of her. He remembered how her eyes searched the crowd when she woke. He remembered how she stayed silent when called a monster. He remembered how the stars seemed to bend around her silver hair. He told himself he should forget. She was not his problem, not his burden, but his heart did not listen. Something inside told him that she was not here by mistake. Something inside whispered that her story had only begun. And so the alien girl sat alone, an unwanted child from the stars. The humans turned their backs. But one human boy kept watching, and in his watching, destiny began to stir. No one knew then that this girl, the alien no one wanted, would one day become the key to everything. The outcast, the alien girl, was given no name by the colony. No family welcomed her. No hand reached out to guide her. She lived on the edge, in a small wooden shelter built from scraps. It was not a home, it was a cage. The people made sure she stayed far from their doors. And though her pod had fallen like a gift from the stars, to them she was only a curse. Children pointed at her from a distance. They laughed and called her words they did not understand. Monster, ghost, shadow. Adults whispered louder, not caring if she heard. She will bring sickness. She will bring war. They told their children to stay away. They told their guards to keep watch. And soon, no one in the colony looked at her as a person, only as a danger. Every night, Lyra, though only Eli dared to secretly call her that, sat outside her small shelter. She traced glowing marks into the dirt, lines and curves that pulsed with soft blue light. The marks seemed alive, like fireflies crawling across the ground. But she never explained them, never spoke. To the people, those marks were frightening. "They are spells," one said. "She is summoning her kind," another hissed. And fear spread like fire in dry grass. The council met again and again. "What do we do with her?" one asked. "She eats our food. She brings nothing in return. She will betray us the moment her people come." But the leader raised his hand. "We will not kill her, but she will never be one of us." And with that, her fate was sealed. The outcast of the colony, living on the edge, watched by all, loved by none. But Eli could not look away. He worked long hours in the mechanic's shed, fixing broken engines, cleaning rusted tools. Yet every evening his eyes wandered to the edge of the colony, where she sat alone. Something about her silence pulled at him. It was not anger, it was not pride, it was something deeper, sorrow, like a bird who had lost its sky, like a child who had lost her home. One evening, when the sun was sinking and the sky burned orange, Eli carried a small bag of food, bread, dried fruit, and water. He walked quietly to her shelter, his heart racing. If anyone saw him, they would laugh, maybe even punish him. But he couldn't stop himself. He placed the food near the door and whispered, "For you." She did not move. She only stared at him with those glowing eyes. Eyes that seemed too old, too heavy, too full of things no child should carry. And then, slowly, she touched the bread, holding it like it was treasure. Eli walked away, but his chest was warm for the first time in a long time. The days turned into weeks, and every evening Eli left something behind. Sometimes food, sometimes a tool, sometimes a small scrap of paper with a drawing. At first, she only stared, but little by little, her hand would reach out, her fingers brushing the gifts. And one night, when the moon was high, Eli heard it, a sound that made him stop in his tracks. The alien girl whispered her first human word, "Help!" The word was small, fragile, almost broken, but it was enough to make Eli's heart tremble. He turned back, his eyes wide. "You can speak," he said, but she shook her head. Not many words, not much, but enough. Her voice was cracked, her accent strange. Yet the word was clear, the meaning sharp as a blade. "Help!" That night, she moved her hands across the dirt and showed him her symbols. At first, Eli thought they were only strange pictures, but then he noticed the patterns, stars, planets, paths across the sky. She wasn't drawing for fun, she was drawing maps. Her glowing fingers traced the memory of lost worlds. Worlds burned and broken by something dark. Eli realized then, she was not dangerous, she was running from something that had already taken everything from her. The next day, the colony whispered louder than ever. "She is making new marks. She is sending messages. We must end this before it's too late." The guards sharpened their blades. The council raised their voices. And the people grew restless. To them, the alien girl was still a threat, still a curse. But to Eli, she was no longer a stranger. She was a survivor, the last of something greater than they could imagine. And in that moment, Eli knew, if no one else stood for her, he would. If no one else listened, he would listen, even if it meant standing against his own people. For in her eyes he saw not a monster, but a truth too painful to ignore. The truth that sometimes the outcast is the only one who carries the future, the human who listened. Eli could not forget the word she had spoken. Help! It echoed in his head every night, like a bell he could not silence. He had fixed broken engines, welded broken doors, even repaired ships that had fallen from the sky. But he had never faced a broken soul. And now he felt as if this alien girl's silence was asking him to fix something far bigger than any machine. The colony had already decided what she was. A threat, a curse, a danger. But Eli had seen more. He had seen the way her eyes softened when she touched the food he left. He had seen the way her glowing fingers drew stars like she missed a home no one else could imagine. And most of all, he had heard her voice, weak but clear, calling out for help. He knew he could not stay away. That night, Eli crept past the guards, his footsteps light on the dirt. The moon cast silver light across the ground, and the air was sharp and cold. At the edge of the colony, the girl sat alone, her knees pulled to her chest, her glowing eyes staring at the horizon. Eli crouched near her shelter and whispered, "Do you understand me?" She turned her head slowly, and for the first time, she nodded. Eli's heart jumped. "You can speak more?" he asked. Her lips trembled. She formed sounds, broken and heavy. "Few words," she said softly, her accent strange, her voice carrying the weight of loneliness. But even those 2 words were enough to bridge a gap wider than the stars. Night after night, Eli returned. He brought paper and a pencil, showing her how humans drew with dark lines. She in return showed him glowing marks, alive and moving like rivers of light. He spoke words, slow and careful. "Bread, water, friend." She repeated them, her voice stumbling, but her eyes shining with determination. And she gave him her name, Lyra. She whispered, placing her hand on her chest. For Eli, the name was like a secret gift. He whispered it back, Lyra, and she smiled for the first time. But while trust grew in the shadows, fear grew inside the colony walls. The guards noticed Eli's late walks, the food missing from storage, the whispers of symbols glowing brighter at night. Rumors spread like disease. The mechanic is speaking with her. He will betray us for her kind. The council called his name in their chambers. Eli is reckless. Eli is foolish. Eli will bring danger upon us all. But Eli did not stop. Every warning only pushed him closer to her. One evening, Lyra drew a large pattern in the dirt. It stretched across half the shelter floor, glowing like a sky full of stars. Eli voce in silence. At the center, she marked a burning shape, red and sharp. This, she said with effort, pointing enemy, Elitfronet, the ones who destroyed your people. She nodded slowly, her eyes dark with pain. Her finger trembled as she drew smaller stars fading out, one by one. My world, she whispered, gone. Eli felt his throat tighten. She was not dangerous. She was not cursed. She was the last piece of a broken people. And her enemies were still out there. Suddenly, he understood why she had whispered help. Not only for herself, but for everyone. The threat she carried was not in her hands. It was coming from the stars. And no one else in the colony wanted to hear it. But Eli listened. He listened to every word, every broken sentence, every trembling pause. He listened until her pain became his, until her fear felt like his own. One night, as they sat beneath the cold moonlight, Lyra looked at him with searching eyes. You believe me? She asked slowly. Eli nodded without hesitation. I believe you, Lyra, he said, his voice steady. For the first time, she reached out her hand, her fingers glowing faint blue. Eli hesitated only for a moment before taking it. Her skin was warm, fragile, and yet her grip was strong. A bond was formed, not of blood, not of race, but of trust. Yet outside the shelter, footsteps crunched in the dirt. A shadow moved, a guard hiding near the edge, listening, watching. His eyes widened as he saw Eli take the alien's hand. His breath caught as he saw the glowing symbols dancing across the ground. He turned and ran toward the colony walls. Whispers would become shouts. Shouts would become orders. And soon, Eli's secret would no longer be his own. But in that moment, neither Eli nor Lyra cared. The stars above stretched endless, the cold air wrapped around them. And for the first time since her pod had fallen, Lyra did not feel alone. And for the first time in his life, Eli felt like he had finally done something that mattered. The human who listened and the alien who whispered, two outcasts sitting together at the edge of the world, unknowing that their bond would decide the fate of them all. The hidden truth. The guard who had seen Eli and Lyra did not stay silent. By the next morning, the whispers had spread like wildfire through the colony. "The mechanic has joined her," one voice said. "He touched her hand. He follows her symbols." Another hissed. Soon the whole colony buzzed with suspicion, and Eli's name was spoken with anger. The council called him into their chambers. The room was heavy with shadows, lit only by the dim glow of lanterns. The leader's voice was sharp. "Eli, we know you've been speaking with the alien." Eli did not deny it. He raised his chin and said calmly, "Her name is Lyra." Gasps echoed around the room. Some council members slammed their fists on the table. "You call her by a name? She is a danger, not a friend," one shouted. "She is a curse waiting to destroy us," another spat. But Eli's voice was steady. "No, you are wrong. She is not here to harm us. She is here because she has no one left." The council did not listen. They showed him old reports hidden in dusty boxes, ancient records of her kind, tall figures with glowing eyes, moving like fire through the skies. The words were written with fear. "Do not trust them. They bring disaster. They carry war." Eli looked at the pages, but he saw lies painted as truth. "These are stories, not facts," he argued. But the leader leaned forward, his voice low. "Stories are what keep us alive. Mechanic, stories remind us of what happens when you trust the wrong kind." Outside the chamber, the people grew restless. Mothers pulled their children closer. Soldiers gripped their weapons. Even Eli's old friends looked at him with suspicion. "He is blinded by her eyes," they muttered. "He will bring death to us all." Eli felt the weight of their hatred. But inside his heart, something stronger had already taken root. Faith in Lyra. That night, Eli returned to her shelter, his face heavy with anger and worry. Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes full of questions. "What happened?" she asked slowly, her voice careful. Eli sat on the ground beside her and told her what the council had said. He told her of the old records, the warnings, the fear. Lyra lowered her head, her silver hair falling like a curtain. "They hate my kind," she whispered. Her fingers began to move across the dirt, faster than ever. Symbols burst to life, glowing brighter, weaving together into a great image. A story in light. Eli stared, his eyes wide. He saw a great fleet of ships, shining like suns, moving across the dark. He saw them shield human colonies from storms of fire. He saw her people giving food, giving medicine, giving protection. He saw them stand against an enemy so dark, so cruel, that stars themselves seemed to vanish. Her glowing hand paused, her eyes wet with unshed tears. "My people," she said softly, "saved humans long ago." Eli's heart ached. He realized the truth. The records had been twisted. Her people had not been monsters. They had been guardians. And now the last of them was being treated like an enemy. Lyra's voice shook as she continued. "But enemy, stronger, they come back, destroy us. Hunt us, I run, I fall here." Her eyes met his, burning with pain and hope. "You believe me?" she asked, her voice trembling. Eli reached out and gripped her hand. "I believe you, Lyra. I will always believe you." But neither of them noticed the shadow at the edge of the shelter. Another guard, hiding in silence, watching the glowing story unfold. His eyes filled with fear at the images of great ships and burning stars. He turned and fled back to the council. And before the night was over, the whispers had grown louder. The alien is showing him things. She has magic in her hands. She is feeding him lies to break us. The next morning, the council leaders stood before the people. We have allowed this alien to live on the edge of our walls, but now she is spreading her poison. The crowd shouted in agreement. She must be sent away. She must be destroyed. The leader raised his hand. Not yet. We will watch. We will wait. But know this, she is not to be trusted, and those who follow her will face judgment. Eli heard their words, his fists clenched at his side. But when he returned to Lyra, her eyes met his with quiet strength. They fear what they do not see, she said softly. Her English was growing stronger, her voice firmer. Truth is here, but they close eyes. Eli nodded. Then we will show them. One day they will see. That night, as the stars burned cold above, Lyra and Eli sat together in silence. Her glowing symbols still shimmered faintly on the ground, a map of memories and warnings. Eli realized the hidden truth was now his burden too. If the colony refused to listen, then he alone would have to stand with her. And though danger pressed closer with every passing night, a fire had been lit inside him. The fire of someone who had seen the truth. The fire of someone who would no longer be silent. The threat returns. The sky above the colony was quiet for many nights. The people worked, traded, argued, and whispered about the alien girl. But then, one evening, the radios crackled with strange signals. Sharp bursts of sound, broken voices, coded messages no one could understand. The soldiers frowned at their screens. The leader's face turned pale. Something was moving out there, far beyond the stars they could see. At first, the council told the people it was nothing, just space storms, they said, harmless noise. But fear spread fast. Mothers clutched their children tighter. Farmers locked their gates earlier. And every whisper ended with the same thought. It is because of her. Lyra felt it before anyone else. She stood at the edge of her shelter one night, her glowing eyes staring into the black sky. Her hands trembled, her breath shook. They come, she whispered to Eli. He looked at her, his chest heavy. Who? Her voice cracked like broken glass. The same who destroyed my people. Eli felt the ground slip beneath him. He had believed her, but now the proof was not drawings in the dirt, not whispers in the night. The enemy was real, and they were coming. He rushed to the council, his voice urgent. She knows what's happening. She can help us. You must listen. But the council stared back with cold eyes. One slammed a fist on the table. This is her trick. Another shouted. She called them here. The leader leaned forward, his voice hard as stone. She is not the answer, mechanic. She is the cause. Outside, the colony armed itself. Soldiers polished rifles. Engineers checked old cannons. Children were told to stay inside. But fear was louder than weapons. Every face was pale, every hand shook. And when they looked at Lyra, they saw not a survivor, but a beacon for their doom. Eli refused to leave her. He sat beside her shelter, his tools forgotten, his sleep stolen. She drew symbols again, her hands glowing brighter than ever. This time they were not memories, not maps of the past. They were warnings, shapes of great ships, burning with red light, closing in on stars like hunters. Eli's eyes followed the glowing marks. They're coming here, he whispered. Lyra nodded slowly, her face pale, her voice shaking. They will not stop, never stop. They want all. They want everything. The next morning, the first sign came. A trade ship arrived late and broken, its hull scorched, its crew terrified. They're out there, the captain cried. Whole fleets, moving fast, burning everything in their path. The colony fell into chaos. People screamed, families packed their bags. The council called for calm, but their own voices shook with fear. And always their eyes turned toward Lyra. She knew, they said, she is one of them. Send her away before it's too late. The leader stood before the people, his voice carrying over the crowd. This alien has brought us danger. She is not our ally. She is our curse. We cannot let her stay. The crowd roared in agreement. Cast her out. In it now. But Eli forced his way through the mob, his voice breaking like thunder. No, you fools. She's the only one who can save us. The people fell silent, shocked at his defiance. The leader's eyes narrowed. And how do you know this? Eli turned, pointing to Lyra, who stood trembling but tall. Because she has faced them before, because she knows their weakness, and because she has already lost everything to them. The crowd murmured, some doubtful, some curious. Lyra stepped forward, her glowing eyes sweeping across the humans who hated her. Her voice was fragile but firm. If I wanted you dead, I'll let them come. I say nothing, you all burn. She lifted her glowing hands, the symbols sparking alive around her. But I choose to help. The words hung in the air like a knife. For the first time, the people did not shout. They did not throw stones. They only stared, their fear colliding with something new, doubt. Could this alien girl truly be their only hope? The leader's face hardened. Even if you are right, even if she can help, why should we trust her? Eli's voice broke with fire. Because without her, we are already dead. Silence followed, heavy and deep. The people shifted, some angry, some afraid, some uncertain. But far above, in the endless dark, shadows were moving. Ships like monsters, their lights burning red, their voices silent but full of death. The threat was no longer a whisper, it was a storm on the horizon. And the humans had to choose. Fear the alien girl who had come from the stars, or stand with her against the darkness that followed. The battle of choice. The red lights appeared in the sky 3 nights later. At first, they looked like distant stars, faint and harmless. But as hours passed, they grew larger, sharper, burning with hunger. The enemy fleet was coming, slow and steady, like predators stalking prey. The colony's alarms screamed through the night. Soldiers rushed to the walls, children cried in their beds, and fear crawled through every corner. Inside the council hall, chaos ruled. We cannot fight them, one man shouted. Our weapons are old. Our shields are weak, another argued. Then we must run, someone else cried. But the leader's voice cut through the noise, cold and heavy. There's no place to run. There's no safe ground. Either we fight or we fall. The people turned their eyes toward Lyra. She stood near the door, her silver hair shining in the firelight, her glowing eyes watching in silence. They looked at her as if she held their fate in her hands. Some still hissed, she brought this. Others whispered, maybe she can stop it. But all waited for her to speak. Eli stepped forward first, his voice raw with urgency. She knows their ships. She knows how they fight. Without her, we have no chance. The leader glared. And why should she care if we live or die? The room fell silent, and all eyes turned back to Lyra. Her lips trembled, her hands shook, and then she spoke. Choice, she whispered, her voice low but clear. I can leave you. Let them burn you, like they burn my world. Or, I stay, I help. I fight, but not for all, only for one reason. Her eyes moved to Eli, and the room gasped. The mechanic who had listened, the boy who had believed her when no one else did. The leader's face darkened. So you will save us only for him? Lyra's glowing eyes burned with quiet fire. I save because one human showed me kindness. One human gave me name. You hate, you fear, but he listened. I fight because of him. The council erupted in anger. She mocks us. She will betray us. But outside, the red lights grew brighter, closer. The ground trembled with distant thunder. Time was running out. Eli raised his voice, cutting through the noise. She doesn't owe us anything, not after the way we treated her. But she is still here, still offering to fight for us. If you can't see the truth in that, then you're already lost. His words struck the people like a spark. Some lowered their eyes in shame. Others clenched their fists in silence. But for the first time, not everyone shouted against Lyra. The leader's voice was heavy. If you truly know their weakness, prove it, alien. Lyra's hands lifted, glowing brighter than fire. She traced symbols in the air, lines of light that bent and shifted. The shapes of enemy ships appeared, their engines, their weapons, their shields. She showed the spots where light dimmed, where armor was thin. Her voice shook but carried strength. Hit here, break them fast, do not let them surround. They fight with fear, they want you to run. If you stand, you live. The soldiers leaned closer, studying her glowing maps. For the first time, they saw her not as a curse, but as a guide. One soldier muttered, "If this is true, we might survive." Another whispered, "Maybe she can save us." Hope began to flicker like a weak flame in the dark. But Lyra knew the truth. Even if they followed her plan, many would die. The enemy was vast, their hunger endless. She looked at Eli, her voice soft. "You fight with me?" Eli nodded without hesitation. "To the end," he said. Her lips curved into the smallest, saddest smile. "Then we fight." The colony prepared through the night. Engines roared. Weapons were lifted. Walls reinforced with shaking hands. Mothers kissed their children and told them to be brave. Soldiers sharpened their blades with grim faces. And at the center of it all stood the alien girl no one had wanted. Now, their only hope. As dawn broke, the first enemy ships pierced the sky. Their red light bathed the colony in a cruel glow. The ground shook, dust rose, and the air filled with the sound of approaching death. Lyra stood tall on the wall, her silver hair whipping in the wind, her glowing eyes fixed on the horizon. The people behind her trembled, but Eli stepped to her side, his voice steady. "Tell us where to strike, Lyra." She lifted her glowing hand, pointing to the sky. "Now," she whispered, her voice carrying across the walls. The battle of choice had begun. The one human who changed everything. The sky burned red as the enemy ships descended. Their engines roared like storms, their weapons glowing with deadly fire. The colony shook under the shadow of giants. Soldiers clutched their rifles, children wept in silence, and fear spread like smoke. But on the wall stood Lyra, her silver hair shining in the crimson light. Beside her stood Eli, the mechanic who had once been invisible, now the only human she trusted. The first blast struck the ground, shaking the earth. Dust rose, people screamed, and the soldiers fired back. Their bullets sparked uselessly against the enemy's shields. But Lyra raised her glowing hands, symbols burning bright in the air. She shouted, her voice fierce, "Aim here." Her fingers marked a weak spot in the enemy hull. The cannons fired, and for the first time, an enemy ship cracked open, falling in flames. The people gasped, hope flickering like fire in dry wood. The enemy struck harder, faster. Walls broke, smoke filled the air. Eli ran with the soldiers, carrying weapons, fixing broken turrets, his hands black with ash. But every time he faltered, Lyra's voice cut through the chaos, guiding, pushing, saving. The girl no one had wanted now stood as their shield, and one by one, the people began to see her not as a curse, but as their light. But the enemy was endless. For every ship that fell, two more rose. For every scream silenced, another echoed. The colony could not last long. Eli knew it, Lyra knew it, and yet neither stepped back. At the height of the battle, a massive ship broke through the clouds. Its hull black as night, its weapons burning brighter than suns. Lyra's eyes widened, her voice shaking. Their leader, if they win, all die. Eli looked at her, his face covered in dirt and blood. "Then tell us how to stop it," he said. Her glowing hands traced symbols in the air. She whispered, "Weak, inside, only I can enter." The words hit Eli like a blade. "You mean to go alone?" Lyra nodded slowly, her eyes glowing with quiet sorrow. "My people end with me, but if I end here, you live. This is my choice." Eli grabbed her hand, his voice breaking. "No, Lyra, there has to be another way." But her eyes softened, her lips curved into the smallest smile. "You gave me reason to fight, Eli. Now I give you reason to live." Before he could stop her, she leapt from the wall, her glowing body streaking toward the enemy ship. The sky lit with fire as the giant vessel unleashed its weapons. But Lyra moved like a star, her symbols burning brighter than ever. She pierced the hull, disappearing into the darkness. The colony fell silent, all eyes on the sky. Moments stretched like hours, every heartbeat louder than thunder. And then, the ship cracked open, light bursting from within. A great explosion lit the heavens, tearing the monster apart. The enemy fleet faltered, their lines breaking, their power crumbling. One by one, they turned and fled, retreating into the endless dark. The colony was saved, but on the broken walls, Eli's knees hit the ground. His chest heaved, his eyes searching the sky. "Lyra," he whispered, his voice raw. But there was no answer, only silence. The people gathered, their faces pale, their eyes filled with awe. They looked at Eli, and for the first time, they bowed their heads. Not to him, but to the girl they had cast aside. The girl who had saved them all. Days passed. The fires were put out, the walls repaired. Life slowly returned to the colony. But Eli never stopped looking at the stars. Every night, he stood at the edge of the settlement, staring into the black sky, hoping, waiting, whispering her name. And one night, as the wind carried the smell of ash and new grass, he thought he heard it, a voice soft as starlight. "Friend." No one else heard. No one else saw the faint glow that flickered on the horizon. But Eli smiled through his tears, because he knew the truth. Lyra was gone, but not lost. Her story was not an ending, but a beginning. The alien girl no one wanted had become a legend no one could forget. And all because one human had listened, one human had cared, one human had changed everything.